Hello and welcome. You've landed on Zero Limits Living. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. Every week, I bring you inspiration and information to transform your life. And this week is going to elevate it for all of us, the entire planet. We are going to bring heaven on earth. Now, before we get going, I want to thank everybody because this shoe, that's great. This shoe and this show is all new. And already you can see or watch this on 1,000 different platforms across the board, probably any platform you can name, including Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, the Lux TV app, or just go to ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com, where I'm putting all the episodes for the ease of finding them, and you can sit and binge. ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. Also, people are always asking about coaching. I greatly believe in having a coach. Almost 20 years ago, I developed Miracles Coaching. It's trademarked, it's proven, it's tested, it's helped tens of thousands of people. You can have a free 45-minute consultation about it. Just go to miraclescoaching.com and check it out. No cost, no obligation. Go see if it's right for you. Now, let's get to the meat of the matter. I'm very excited because I have a dear friend of mine, a man who's on a mission, a man with a vision that is highly contagious, and it's one that we all need right now. So, first of all, let me introduce him with the official bio. Martin Rutte is an international speaker and management consultant. As president of Livelihood, a management consulting firm with offices in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, Canada, and New Mexico, he explores the deeper meaning of work and its contribution to society. Martin has helped formulate strategic vision plans for such organizations as Sony Pictures, Southern California Edison, Virgin Records, SO Petroleum, and Apple Computer. Pretty impressive. He was the first Canadian to address the Corporate Leadership and Ethics Forum of the Harvard Business School, returning as the keynote speaker 4 times. He is a co-author of the New York Times business bestseller, Chicken Soup for the Soul at Work, with over 1 million copies sold and translations into 15 languages so far. And his newest book, the book we're going to be focused on, is called Project Heaven on Earth. And for those looking at the visual, I'm holding it up. Project Heaven on Earth, the 3 simple questions that will help you change the world easily. It explores your deep yearning for the kind of life, work, nation, and world you want, and the simple, easy, concrete steps you can take to make that happen. He put a website up. It's at projectheavenonearth.com, and we'll discuss that a little later. Martin, thank you for being here. Welcome. Great to see you, my friend.
Delight to be with you.
What have you been up to today?
Today.
Yes, today.
No one's asked me that question to begin with. No, I like it because it throws me.
Right.
My wife's godson, his wife, and 2 children, 5 years old and 2 years old, are here visiting us, and we took them to the beach, and it was pandemonium. It was fabulous.
Well, pandemonium of that kind is better than a pandemic that most of us have gone through. So
Yep.
Congratulations for having fun like that today. And during that, making time to do this for me and my listeners. I want to point out to the people listening and watching that I don't get paid to do this show. My guest doesn't get paid to do this show. You probably didn't pay to access this show. We're doing this for you. So I'm asking you to be present, to listen, to take notes, and where appropriate, take action. Now, Martin, I know that you have a vision, and it's a real juicy vision. But what I don't know is what spawned it. What happened around 1988, or was it 1998? There was a turning point. There was an epiphany of some sort. What took place?
As you mentioned in your intro, Joe, I'm a management consultant, and I've worked with the companies that you've listed. So I've been at the high levels. I've also done individual personal development courses, and I've been always fascinated by the idea of vision. What is a vision? How do you engage it? How do you stop it? How do you prevent it? And that was the first one in Canada that I know even used that term. And then I moved into a field called spirituality and work, not proselytizing spirituality and work, but really evoking the deep spiritual hunger that I think a lot of people have.
Hmm.
I was doing a talk at a spirituality and work conference in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I thought, if every business in the world is spiritual, is that what you want? And I said, no. If we could transform business, because business is the temporal power in the world, if we could transform business, we could transform the world. And then this thought popped into my mind, oh, you mean heaven on earth. And Joe, my first reaction was, you can't say that.
Right.
Right. But I thought, well, wait a minute. I could talk to you about hell on earth, hell's on earth conversations, the economy, the wars, the environment, all that stuff. That's fine to talk about, but not heaven on earth, not our deep souls yearning for the kind of life and relationships and work and nation and world that we deeply hunger for. And I thought, you know what? I knew, Joe, when I heard the phrase heaven on earth, I knew this was the next phase in my life. I had no idea how to do it. We'll talk about it, how I began, but I had no idea how to do it. I just knew that's it. That's the next phase.
Wow. So a vision was born. Why do you think we have resistance to the phrase heaven on earth? I wanted to tell you, while you get a drink of water there, that not only have I been rereading your book, but I also looked up the phrase heaven on earth. And Switzerland is considered to be heaven on earth. Switzerland, of all places. But I think it brings up religion for a lot of other peoples. And then we start to get into the controversy of what that looks like. What do you think, based on your experience of writing the book, promoting this, talking about your vision? What is our resistance to even the phrase vision on earth or heaven on earth? Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of baggage that people have about religion. When I was a kid, religion did this and it shouldn't have. Or when I was a kid, religion didn't do this and it should have. So there's some kind of freezing with respect to religion. I, in no way, when I heard the phrase heaven on earth, did I even think of religion. Honestly, I didn't. I just thought, well, but if I had a magic wand and could have the kind of world I wanted, wouldn't I wave it and have heaven on earth? So what the fear is that I'm going to proselytize a particular definition. This is heaven on earth. I know what it is. You don't. And I'm going to shove this down your throat. That is right. Not my style at all. Plus, I don't think it will work. Even if my definition agrees with yours, it won't work. What's more powerful, much more powerful than imposing, is evoking. And so what I began to look for is what would evoke heaven on earth in you in such a way that it was organic, that it was natural, that it was like, oh, I get it. And then I knew I was in. So that began this inquiry. What is it? So I'm not a huge reader. I'm a huge interactor, So I'd go around to people, Joe, and go, well, what's heaven on earth for you? What's heaven on earth for you? And I didn't have an answer. I wanted to get the lay of the land. I wanted to see what's in here. What am I talking about? I don't even know what I'm talking about. Let me go explore. Let me go discover. Let me go inquire. And that's how I got into it. And once people get, and we'll look at it in a moment, what heaven on earth is for them from their definition, not mine, from their definition, everything changes.
Did you meet with resistance when you walked up to people, since you're doing this as kind of an informal survey back then, and you said, hey, what's heaven on earth to you? Did you feel that there was resistance there? People look at you cockeyed and go, why are you asking me that? Why don't we talk about sports or the weather?
You could see the cloud come over there. Well, I got to go now.
Yeah.
Yes.
So go ahead.
What I wanted to do was get by the resistance in a natural way to have you discover what was there for you. And so if I may, I want to ask, I don't know, did you look at the 3 questions in the book?
Of course.
All right.
Of course.
Let me ask you the 3 questions. So what happened is I asked hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, what's heaven on earth? What's heaven on earth? What's heaven on earth? And out of that, I've distilled 3 very powerful questions. And what I'd like to do with you, Joe, is ask you the 3 questions. And as I ask you each question, so I'll ask the 3 questions, then I'm going to go back and talk about why I did it the way I did it.
Okay.
I want you, the listener viewer, to stop and answer the question as well for you, because when you answer these 3 questions, you'll be at a much more advanced state than just right now at the beginning of the conversation. So Question one, recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth. Recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth. What was going on? I'm going to take some notes.
Okay. And you want me to answer then?
Please.
All right. The moment that comes up for me right now was when I was sitting on a beach that was paid for by a billionaire for me to have R&R after an event that I had spoke at for him. And I remember being so peaceful, so serene, so grateful, so in the moment that I actually felt the presence of what I'll call God. And it kind of whispered that this is for you, enjoy it. Yeah. Yeah, I should just leave now because that's all I got to say. It was an unforgettable, as you can tell, it was an unforgettable moment.
Yeah. All right, that's question one. Question two. Imagine you have a magic wand, and with this wand, you can have heaven on earth. Imagine you have a magic wand, and with this wand, you can have heaven on earth simply by waving it. What's heaven on earth for you?
Well, Martin, I got chills up my spine because, well, first of all, I had been homeless at one point. So the very first thing is no more homelessness, wiped out, over. It's like something we read in the history books now. It is so far gone. Nobody experienced homelessness. It's gone. War. I was just in the Ukraine and I was in Russia and I leave and one's bombing the other. No more war. End war. There's peace. And your mother or father was from Ukraine, I read in the book.
Yes.
And
Father.
Your father, yes. So there's no more homelessness. There's no more war. There's peace among cultures. There's, I want to sing the song, there's peace on earth.
Very good, Joe. Very good. We'll come back to this. And the third question, what simple, easy, concrete step will you take in the next 24 hours to have more heaven on earth, to have that heaven on earth that you just talked about?
First, I'm doing it by interviewing you. And second, when this interview is posted, because we're recording it in the studio, and then I'll post it live, and it'll go out to those 1,000 different platforms, I will add fuel to the promotional fire by putting money behind it so it goes out there in an even bigger way. So people get to experience the rest of what we're beginning to talk about right now. And they get to look at the 3 questions and hopefully go get your book and pass that along, Project Heaven on Earth. So, and that's only one thing. I mean, geez, I've got Instagram posts. I'll be promoting this on Instagram. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale there. Posted on Facebook, posted on all social media. I will get the momentum going for everybody to see this show, not just all the Zero Limits Living TV shows, but this one in particular because of the whole thrust of creating heaven on earth. And that's just the beginning of it, but we'll, just for the sake of answering the question quickly, I'll say that's what I'll do.
Thank you, Joe. Now, let's go through each of the 3 questions in order, and I want to help you understand structurally why I asked them the way I asked them. So question 1, recall a time when you experienced heaven on earth. What was going on? Mm-hmm. And what you did was you answered the question. What you did not do, Joe, and what 99.99999% of people do not do is they do not ask, Martin, what do you mean by heaven on earth? I didn't say what it was. I didn't define it. And yet you could answer the question. Not could, you did answer the question.
That's a very good insight. Yes.
The reason you could answer the question is because there is something within you that I call the already knowing. You already know what heaven on earth is. And so when I asked the question, recall a time when I was on the beach on the Millionaire, and you saw what it did to me, and I wasn't even there. Stop me cold. Okay, that's one. Second question.
There's an inside understanding. There's already a built-in internal vision. Each of us has some sense of what that is like. That's what you're saying?
I call it the already knowing. You
Already knowing.
already have an experience of heaven on earth, or you couldn't have answered the question.
Beautiful, beautiful. Okay.
All right. Second question. Here's a magic wand, and with it, you can have heaven on earth. The reason for the magic wand, Joe, is to remove the necessity of having to know how you're going to do it. If you don't have to, go ahead.
I was actually writing down, how do you do it? That was going to be one of my next questions for you. I was jotting it down as you're holding up a pen, explaining that this takes away the how, or the need for it.
The need for it as the first question. How is the second question never the first question, especially in a visionary statement, especially in something that's so deep within your soul? If I don't have to know how to do it, because that's the magic wand's job, oh, well, then let me tell you what it is. No more homelessness, no more war, peace among cultures, peace on earth. You know exactly what it is. And I didn't tell you. You told you. Imagine a room, pre-COVID days, but still, 200-300 people sharing what heaven on earth is for them. I mean, you just feel the room dropping deeper, 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 as person after person after person shares what it is for them. We know what it is. And then the third question, I don't want to just leave it at, this is what heaven on earth is for me, which is wonderful. I want you to get into action within the next 24 hours. But listen to the third question. What simple, easy, concrete step will you take in the next 24 hours to move that forward? So it's a step that, well, I can do that. That's the one. It's a step that you know you're going to be successful at. That's the one. And the reason that's important is because it gets you into the game by your definition. I had a woman, I remember doing a webinar once, this incredible woman from Austria, Elizabeth, said, oh, heaven on earth, in a Austrian German accent, heaven on earth, Austria is a heaven on earth nation. I went, what? Well, how could you say that? And she was like dismissive of me. Well, because it's simple. She taught me that I don't know what your simple is, but you do. Once you discover what the simple is, you're off and running.
I love that you dissected this, because it gives us greater understanding for where you're going with this and for our own answers. I have a couple questions for you. One of them is, how would you answer those three questions yourself right now, today? I know you've answered it before on other shows for other people and over time, but today, how would you answer those three questions?
Today on the beach, seeing little Felix, 2 years old, just screaming with joy, running like unbridled, running in every direction that he wanted. It was perfectly safe. It was sunny. The lobster boats were coming in. The plane was in the air. He was we're just, with this, they're my wife's godson, but they're family. They're really deep family to me. All right, second question. Imagine you have a magic wand, and with it, you can have heaven on earth. What is heaven on earth? That we get, that co-creating and experiencing heaven on earth is the new story of what it means to be a human and what it means to be humanity. But as people get that, not when people get it, because people are getting it. As people get that, as people get, oh, we can actually do this, and we are actually doing it. I'll give you a ton of examples in a couple of minutes. There's, oh, this is not so crazy. And when they get in touch with what it is for them, when they speak from that very deep divine essence and know what it is, and that is given permission to come out into the world in safety. And then the third question, they take, what simple, easy step will you take in the next 24 hours? I'll walk out. I'm just looking out my lawn here. There's a field of lupins and the ocean's beside me. I'll look at that and the ocean, and just, I don't remember the exact word you said, but this is heaven on earth. So thank you for asking. I feel very emotional. There's some
too.
Connection. When you spoke, you just touched something very, very deeply in me. So thank you.
Yeah, no, I felt it when I was speaking then, but I also felt it when I heard you talking about the 2-year-old that is screaming in bliss uninhibited, just enjoying life in the moment. I mean, I'm there, I feel it. And a little 2-year-old in me wants to go screaming on the beach somewhere. And here's where, though, the devil's advocate comes in. And part of my job is I want to be of the most service to the people watching and listening. This is called zero limits living. And I have been there. I know when people are disgruntled, cynical, disbelieving, wounded, and especially now when we just mentioned the war. The war is still going on as far as I know. Pandemic's still going on as far as I know. Economic possible collapse is whispered out there in the world. It doesn't seem like heaven on earth in any way, shape, or form. So how do we, and I'm on your side when I say these things, Martin, and I think you know that, but I'm looking for your explanation to help shed light on why we even want to do these 3 questions. Why move in the direction of me sitting on the beach in Thailand and you with your 2-year-old, the grandson that's playing, and the little things like I'll promote the show. And some people might sit there and go, so what if you promote the show? How does that bring heaven on earth? What's an answer to that skepticism?
If we look at the turmoil on the ocean of culture today, the pandemic, the war, the economic uncertainty, the environmental issues, the God forbid threat of nuclear war, those are massive collective threats, not only individual, but collective threats. And we have not, as humanity, come to the fore and said, we need to effectively solve this. More than we. Now, if you look at history and just say, okay, we've never had no war, we've never had no hunger, that those are all impossibilities, but they're based solely on the past. There was a rabbi in Toronto years ago who had a great quote. The past has a veto. Excuse me, no. The past has a vote, but not a veto. You can go down the tubes. That's really easy to do. I've done it. We've all done it. But what does it add? What does it do to change the story of what it means to be a human and what it means to be humanity? This is a bold response to the current situation. If you're on the sea of turmoil and you dive underneath the surface turmoil, you come to this peace, to this stillness, to this silence. And it is from there that I'm asking you to act out into our world by answering the 3 questions. You have had an experience of heaven on earth. You do know what heaven on earth is. And you can begin to do something with, and whatever it is. I have a woman in Mexico City who smiles at 2 people a day. That's it. I have a guy who
I love it.
From Gabon, Africa. Let me go through some of the examples to inspire.
Yeah, I want to hear these.
All right. So first of all, don't get trapped in the mindset that says, in essence, this is hell on earth and there's nothing we can do about it. Because if you're trapped there, have a nice day, but it's over. I can't accept that. I won't accept that. That to me is worse than death. And so this is my contribution to the new story of what it means to be a human and what it means to be humanity. So examples, let's start in a sense small and work our way up. So this one in Mexico smiles at 2 people a day. That is her contribution. A woman in Hawaii, she grows microgreens, little green plants that you grow in 10 days and harvest, grind them all up and drink them. They're very healthy drinks. And she teaches people what to do, how to grow and harvest them. Well, what can I do? She decides to embed what heaven on earth is for her at the end of every email. And in essence, what she says is, heaven on earth for me is returning to the Garden of Eden. What is heaven on earth for you? And that's embedded in every email. We have our friend Justin, who's a police officer and who has created a 16-page manual called Heaven on Earth for Law Enforcement. When I asked him what's heaven on earth for policing, and it just came up in a conversation we had, without thinking, he's like, bang, the end of crime and people helping each other. I was like, never thought of it before. 16-page manual. I did a webinar, and there was a woman on. Joe, I just got to stop for a second. There's something going on here. I feel very emotional with you in this talk. I have not done this, had this feeling in an interview. So I just want to say it.
I feel it, and there's a spiritual electric vibe going on right now. I not only am feeling my version of whatever you're feeling here, but I'm also catching your enthusiasm. I'm catching your inspiration. I'm catching that wave, and I'm really praying that match to just get lit in me is lighting people watching or listening to this show. If it's going across 1,000 platforms, that's a whole lot of people that can be awakened right now. And then I love the examples you're giving, like the woman who just wants to smile a couple times a day to people, and the person who's putting the line in the email. These little things, people don't know how they contribute in such an impactful way. The one more thing I wanted to say is, I'm a great believer in building a new story. When I was homeless, I had the story of being a victim. And later, when I had some awareness, I realized that I was putting myself through that because I thought that was my curriculum. I thought I had to do it. So I had a story there. When I awakened, and it was a long process for me because I didn't know you, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have TLC, we didn't have a lot of things that we have that are wonderful today. But I started to realize, oh, wait a minute, maybe I can have a different story and model a different behavior and get different examples and then get a different life. That's what I see you doing. And it's firing me up. So I'm feeling the passion of it. So please continue with your examples.
Because you just did a little trigger in terms of the power of story. We'll come back. All right. So the police officer I mentioned, and then I was doing this webinar. There was a woman on, and we were talking about the sufferings in the world. And she said, I'll tell you a suffering, violence against women. And she was, furious, not mad. I've been to the police. I've been to the government. Nothing. What would you do? I said, well, Sue, I don't know your financial situation. You could donate $5,000. You could donate a penny. Well, what difference would a penny make? One of the other people a woman on the call, Deanne, said, wait a minute. What if everybody in your county donated a penny a day to help end violence against women? And she went, oh my God. Joe, she and a group in Lunenburg County, Nova Scotia, Canada, started a group called Making Change, started a program called Making Change. They took a little mason jar, they put a picture of a woman, half her face beaten up, bruised, half her face bright, alive with the light shining out. And they asked, and the program was called Making Change, and they asked people to donate a penny or more a day for a year. You couldn't put in $3.65 and say, okay, that's the year. No, a penny. They did it in 2 counties. They raised $2,500 in a year. They took that to the government of Canada, who has a group called Status of Women, who gave them $100,000 for each of the subsequent 3 years, $300,000, so that wherever she goes in the county now, people's first question, how can I help?
Wow.
What difference would a penny make? Ridiculous. No. The woman in Austria who took my book, she takes the book to the president's office. She does a 3-question thing for Halloween in a monastery. And she had people going around with magic wands. She asked a local priest to do a homily on heaven on earth. And he did, asking the 3 questions in German. And then this guy in Germany, I was doing in Montreal, he's from Gabon, the African country of Gabon. He lit up when he heard heaven on earth. And he said, I've always wanted to do something for my country, but more importantly, for my continent. He's begun a Facebook group called Africa, a heaven on earth continent. I loved it. A newspaper in Dehradun, India, they heard about me. Publisher editor phones me, does the interview, blah, blah, blah. And at the end, I said, well, what are you going to do? He said, what am I going to do? Well, I'll write the story. No. What are you going to do for heaven on earth? Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, long story short, it's called the Dehradun Street. And on the masthead, in capital letters, it says Dehradun, a heaven on earth city. Every time people see that, boom, 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 boom. And then the final example I want to give, amongst many, is here. I'm on Prince Edward Island, Canada. It's the birthplace of Canada, the smallest province. I was doing a seminar, I don't know, 25 years ago, and this thought popped into my mind. Prince Edward Island is Canada's first heaven on earth province. No. Prince Edward Island is Canada's first heaven on earth province. No. Third time, Prince Edward Island is Canada's first heaven on earth province. Okie dokie. So I declared it. I said, okay, Prince Edward Island is Canada's first heaven on earth province. Since then, a tea merchant has blended teas from around the world and from PEI called Heaven on Earth. A cafe has a Heaven on Earth coffee blend. A jewelry store hands out my 3 questions on a card to over 10,000 customers. I did a year and a half, once a week, at a local drug and alcohol rehab center on Heaven on Earth. And the premise being, I've cleaned my life up. I was a drug addict. I was a user, whatever. I'm here. I'm now clean. So now what am I going to do with my life? So I go to the executive director and I said, this is what I want to do. And I thought, she'll never go for it. She goes for it. So I did a year and a half, once a week on Heaven on Earth. And they got it. They loved it. And 3 or 4 summers ago, I interviewed each of the 4 political party leaders in this province, and I asked them the 3 heaven on earth questions I just asked you, plus a 4th question, which is, with the same magic wand, what is heaven on earth for Prince Edward Island? And I made a video of each of the 4 leaders answering that question. So
nice.
You have no idea what's going on. Just before we got on this call, where are we now? June 22nd. If you go to Google and put the phrase in quotes, heaven on earth. So Google heaven on earth in quotes, 2020, you will get roughly 3.8 million results. 2021, 4.1 million results. 2022, and we're about halfway through the year, 7.8 million results. Something is going on under the surface, under the turmoil, in which people are saying, this is not working. I mean, this story isn't working. We do need a new story. So 10, 15 years ago, if I came to you and I said, heaven on earth, you're nuts. And now it's like, tell me more.
This is exhilarating. I love your stories, and I love that they're telling us the littlest thing, whether it's a penny or a smile, can make a difference in the accumulated effort and the direction it's going in. And I want to hear about story, but I want to mention a couple things. I know that decades ago, I think it was during the Werner Erhard S days, there were ads for, was the idea of getting the word out that we can end hunger. And I always loved, at first I was resistant to it. I mean, this was way back in the 70s and 80s. And I'm going, how do you do this? But then I realized that it was introducing an idea that could become a possibility because the idea was necessary to create the momentum.
Yes, sir.
You may know that after being homeless and achieving some level of success, I created Operation Yes, which was a movement to end homelessness, at least in the United States. And boy, did I get flack from people. And I came out with a book and I got a website up, operationyes.com. And I kept defending it by saying, look, all I'm doing is saying this is a possibility. If we start with the possibility and take some sort of action to move forward, we can do this. Yeah, that we're stuck in the victimhood. We're stuck in the same old, like you were describing earlier.
I can't be done.
Yeah, that's
it
what
can't be done. And my proof is it hasn't been done until today. Oh, great.
Right.
No.
Right. So you're doing this with Heaven on Earth, and it sounds like you're getting people to sign on. What about the people who don't? What about the people who are listening and going, this sounds like those were frivolous, accidental, synchronistic, unexpected coincidences that took place? And even they can be reluctant and even say smiling to 2 people a day. How does that make any difference? I already do that.
The difference is if you say the action that I'm taking today is my direct contribution to heaven on earth, then by declaration it is. So let me go back to what you did in moving from homelessness to success. The way you start a new story is by declaration, is by saying, this is the new story. It's independent of circumstances. I'm exercising my agency as a human being to say, this is now the way it is. Now, if you don't agree, you don't want to play, that's fine. Because it's important to me, Joe, that a person knows that they can say no. Because if they don't say they know that they can say no, there's no free choice. It's manipulation. So no. If the answer is no for you, fine, it's no. But if the answer is yes, engage. I don't know if I told you about the woman in homelessness. I forgot to mention that example to you.
Tell me.
So I'm having coffee rather, at Steve Areno's coffee house in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, with a beloved friend, Brenda McKenzie, and we're talking about the sufferings in the world. And I said, is there a suffering, and heaven on earth? And I said, is there a suffering in the world that really bothers you, Brenda? And she said, homelessness. And Joe, she went white. I'm not kidding. The reaction visually was just unbelievable to me. I could see how deeply it affected her. She's a real estate agent. And so I said, okay, so what is heaven on earth for homelessness? And she said, well, that's obvious, a home for everyone. But I'm a real estate agent. I work 87 hours a day, 10 days a week. I'm in a relationship which takes another 100 hours a day, blah, 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 blah. Fine. What are you going to do, Brenda? Oh, she goes back to her agency, sits people down and says, we're going to end homelessness. How? Easily. Here's how. I'm asking you to agree that whenever you sell a home or a commercial property, that $100 will come off your commission up to a maximum of $1,200 a year. All you have to do is say yes once, and we in the office will look after everything. They all said yes. They began a program called A Home for Everyone. They invited proposals from individuals and groups in the community. They began to be known for that. Last time I spoke to her, they had raised over $400,000 for it. And she still continues. She wants to take it national and international. She has a commitment to, and this is interesting, the language, Joe. It's not the end of homelessness. It is because that's the end of the suffering. So when the suffering ends, what's there? What is there is a home for everyone.
I love that. Martin, I got to tell you, you are awakening me here. You know, when I was reading your book and I was thinking about homelessness, and there was one organization that I probably shouldn't say their name, but they're mentioned in the book. And I went and looked them up online, and I was disappointed, almost enraged. I don't get angry very often, but a little bit irritated that what they were doing was actually not giving anybody any homes. They were doing the legislature kind of thing and trying to manipulate issues. And there's probably good happening there, but I didn't see it. And I kept saying, how are you actually putting homeless people into homes? And there was a little footnote at the bottom that said, if you're having problems being homeless or about to be homeless, call 211, which they had nothing to do with. And so I was being irritated. But what I'm hearing, and this is why I'm telling the story, because I'm hoping everybody listening or watching at this point is hearing in this way. What can I do? Simple, easy, concrete steps can I take? Because even me, when I start thinking of how to solve things like homelessness, I go for the great big jumbo. I'm a disciple of P.T. Barnum. I wrote a book on him. So I think in these big, colossal, attention-getting ways, which is great. If you got a solution of that sort, bring it on. But also, and this is simpler, is the little baby steps, the 2 smiles, the penny a day. So you're helping me, you are awakening me, and I hope that that's happening to people watching. Now, there's one question I have to ask you about, because in your book, Project Heaven on Earth, you say that you don't need to believe. And I wrestled with that one because I'm a big belief person. And I keep telling people, you change your beliefs, you get a different reality. It all begins with beliefs. And what you're seeing is what you believe. And, I can go on forever. But I read what you had to say and it made sense. So can you speak to that here in case there are people that go, I don't believe this will work?
An assumption, which is called, in order for me to do something, in order for me to do X, whatever X is, in order for me to do X, I need to believe that I can do X. But what if I don't believe it? Oh, well, then I'll spend time creating the belief. But you're not doing it. You're spending time creating the belief. So that's one. Secondly, have you or anyone you know in your life ever achieved something after which you or they said, I don't believe I did that? I was in a marathon. The most I'd ever run was 5 miles in my life. and I ran 16.1 miles. I don't believe I did that. I did. And it is because it is not necessary for you to believe that you can do something in order to do it. What is necessary is for you to do it. Because if you think you have to believe you can do something in order to do it, you will only do that which is in your belief system. Mm. Or you'll wait for the belief to come, or this is worse, you'll decrease the thing that you're going for, as opposed to saying, well, I'll use my example. Do I believe heaven on earth is possible? No. Okay, fine. Now what? I'm committed to it. What supersedes belief is commitment. Here's the example of the Hunger Project that you talked about earlier. So this was in the late 80s in Chicago, and the organization, the Hunger Project, had begun, and its goal was the sustainable end of hunger. And I thought, you nuts? I mean, no, we've always had hunger. What are you, crazy? I mean, it's not, I don't believe it's possible. So my beloved friend, Bob Branscombe, God rest his soul, kept saying, I want you to enroll in this. I want you. No, Bob, no. One day we were in a yellow cab in Chicago. I so clearly remembered. I was against the door. He was in the middle seat. The other seat was empty. And he shoves me against the wall, the door, and he says, I want you to join the Hunger Project. And I said, no, I won't. And he said, why not? And I said, because I don't believe it's possible. And he said, can you not believe it's possible and still work on ending it? And I went, yes. He said, good, sign up. And I went, oh my God. The not belief was preventing me from taking action. I thought, my God, of course. So is it necessary for you to believe that we can create and experience heaven on earth? No, because if you helped create heaven on earth and experience that, would it be all right with you if it existed and you didn't believe it was possible? Yes.
Exactly right. Let me ask you this. It's more confrontational, but it's a visionary, honest question. I'm laughing because based on what you just said, I probably can guess your answer. But do you believe that it's possible to have heaven on earth in the way most people are imagining it? And most people, I would venture to say, you talk to more people about this subject, most people would be saying, that's no war, that's peace on earth, everybody's fed, end of hunger, relationships are at peace, we got unicorns and rabbits, and everything is fine. Do you believe that's possible?
Yep.
That ended that question. All right. Do you feel that the way to get there is this one person at a time doing the 2 smiles a day, 1 penny a day, or whatever it is that each person comes up with?
Let me tell you at the beginning, I love that answer.
Right.
Not only do I believe it, it's something my soul is hungering for. Because I'm so hurt by the unnecessary, stupid, reoccurring, immoral suffering in the world that isn't necessary. It's crazy. It's not necessary to see those young children and mothers having to leave their husbands and fathers behind in Ukraine to fight while they go to a new country and God knows what. So that's not acceptable for me. And this is my contribution to this new story.
There's some pretty despicable things going on in the world right now, and I don't want to narrate them because it'll just ruin my energy and everybody else's probably. How do we stay focused on creating heaven on earth or Project Heaven on Earth while there's gunshots over there and there's Martin telling me about heaven on earth over here? How do I maintain sanity and create the heaven on earth while the gunshots are going off?
It's a very profound question, Joe, really profound, because of so much craziness in the media today and what's about it. So for me, many ways. The first is, getting in touch with the answers to the 3 questions that I asked. That's really, really important. And by asking those questions hundreds and hundreds of times, And this is what the rest of the book is about. I've discovered 7 different gateways. So for you, the gateway would be called the end of a suffering. But for others, it's something different. And here are the major 7. One is internal. So there are those people who say the way I co-create heaven on earth is by internally. The more heaven on earth in me, the more it will show up in the world. So I do art. I hang out in nature. I go to therapy to clean out the stuff in my head and my soul. Whatever it takes to decrease the amount of not heaven on earth in me and increase the amount of heaven on earth. Second is relationships. There are those people who say the way I create heaven on earth is in relationship with myself, with another, with the divine. There are those people who say, no, heaven on earth for me is, I shouldn't say no. There are those people who say heaven on earth for me is living a global value. My wife's global value is joy. She walks into a room, you got no choice, pal, joy. There are those people who say by the living of a global value in our world, it's heaven on earth. Then there are people who are externally focused, like you. Well, what about ending? What about hunger? What about war? What about poverty? It would be the end of those suffering. There are people who are working on making the sufferings better. God bless them. I'm talking a different domain. I'm talking about the end of hunger, the end of war, the end of poverty. Yes, the end. And there are organizations who are very clearly committed to ending a particular suffering. Then there are people who are taking on institutions, Joe. What if the institutions of the world, government, religion, law, medicine, technology, entertainment, media, what if the purpose of each of those institutions was to help co-create heaven on earth? What would they do? What would they not do? Then there are those who say, no, my nation. Elizabeth in Austria. Austria is a heaven on earth nation. We're saying it here, Prince Edward Island, Canada's first heaven on earth province. I have people in Croatia, in Mexico, who are saying, my nation is a heaven on earth nation. And then this here now. There are people who say, but look, this is heaven on earth right now. And our belief that it's not is what's keeping us from experiencing it. So any one or more, multiple of those gateways, when you discover what it is, and you will by reading this book and doing the exercises, when you discover what your particular gateway is, you saw how you got turned on by the end of homelessness, you lit up. We want you to light up by the project that you discovered. That's yours, that you say is yours. So that's the second one. You discover what your heaven on earth project is, and you live that simple, easy, concrete way every day. Go for walks in nature. Get out of the media. I'm Jewish, and on Sabbath, I don't look at TV or computers. It's a day of rest. And what I got to look at my email. No, you don't. No, you don't. Right. The world will exist without you for one day on social media. Do those things that bring you heaven on earth, no matter how tiny, and watch. As a friend of mine said a couple of days ago, don't look for the gap, look for the growth. I love that.
My goodness. Nick, who's running the cameras in the studio, has already texted me that we're running out of time here. So, and I always get frustrated at this point because I want more time with you. Let me ask you this.
We'll do a second interview.
We will do a second interview. We can easily do that. But while I have you right now, and I do want people to go to your, get the book, Project Heaven on Earth. You have a website, projectheavenonearth.com. I think you have a 7-day course. It's an email course. If they go to projectheavenonearth.com, they can sign up for it. Is that correct?
That is all correct. You get a free 7-day course at projectheavenonearth.com, and you will get a free weekly blog. So every week on Sunday morning, you'll get 7:30 a.m. local time. You'll get another blog, Heaven on Earth, from this perspective, from that perspective, because what it's doing is it's normalizing the phrase heaven on earth. So the more you hear it, the more it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. This is heaven on earth. And the other thing is the title. The title is Project Heaven on Earth.
Yes.
But the title is also Project Heaven on Earth.
I didn't catch that part.
It's a verb and a noun.
I got it.
So I'm asking people to go to Amazon and buy 3 copies, Joe.
Okay.
One for yourself, one for somebody in your life right now who you know needs this. Who's that person? And then one for somebody who's going to come into your life. And I have a program called The Case for Heaven on Earth. When you buy 20 or more books and send me the receipt at martin@projectheavenonearth.com, I'll do a free 1-hour consult for you or a webinar for your group. And people have been doing that. It's amazing. We want to get the word out there. Yeah. This is the new story, Heaven on Earth.
Martin, what is a question you were hoping I would ask?
How can we play together more?
That's a good one.
Thank you.
That's a good one. Having a part 2 to the interview could be one way to do that. Thank you, Martin. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to give the sign off here. I've been talking to Martin Rutte, and the book is Project Heaven on Earth. Go to projectheavenonearth.com, get his course. Go to Amazon to get the book. Do as he said, get 3 copies or get 20 or more, as he was pointing out there. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale, who's just been blown away, and this is Zero Limits Living. Every week, I bring you inspiration and information to change your life. Each of us can make a difference. Whether it's a smile, whether it's a penny, or whether it's something else that is simple and easy and actionable for you, you can do it, and you can begin it, and you can start today. This show is now seen on 1,000 different platforms, including Roku, Amazon TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire. See, Martin has me all befuddled at this point here. Or just go to ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com and watch all the episodes, including this one. We'll post it there as well, ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. Check out coaching, miraclescoaching.com. Started it 20 years ago. It's proven, tested, trademarked. It is the thing that'll work for you, but find out for yourself. miraclescoaching.com. I want to thank Candace Barr, who has made this happen. Lux Media, Nick, who's behind the studio here. Martin for being my guest, and all of you for watching. Together, there are no limits, and we can bring heaven on earth. Expect miracles.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radicals, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient Nasset. Nasset increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.